Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Fabiola. I am a practitioner here at the Nutritional Wellness Center. And one of the things that I've been wanting to do for a very long time is to really collaborate with our community, the professionals outside Nutritional Wellness Center that are out there working as hard as we are to create health and wellness in our community. So this is our very first of hopefully many different Zoom meetings where we get to bring professionals like Julian and to talk about their expertise and how we can utilize their services to bring about that wellness that we all want, that longevity that we are looking for. So the name of our talk today is Active Living, the Transformative Impact of Exercise in Your Life. And with me today, I have a super cool guy from everyone who I've talked to. He's had really good report cards. Everybody who knows him and who he is impacted by his work has nothing but amazing things to say about him. So I'm super excited to have Julian Munoz with us today, who is a sports conditioning and corrective exercise specialist. So I'm going to let him introduce himself and then we'll go from there. Julian, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're welcome. Coming to you live from my front porch.
That's awesome.
The place to go where the dogs wouldn't bark and interfere with everything.
Oh, I know how that feels. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself. So what led you to be in the field that you currently practice?
I started off as I've been a PE teacher for 27 years, going into my 28th year. And over the course of that time, I dabbled in some physical fitness and stuff like that, and eventually decided to get my certification because I was working with athletes a lot. And I just wanted to make sure I was giving them the best information that I could. And it turns out that I really love it. I get into it. I just can't get enough of it. My wife actually is to the point where told me I got to stop buying books and stop taking classes. I've been a personal trainer, certified trainer for 12 years, but I've been doing the strength and conditioning stuff with athletes for over 20 years now.
Wow. That's so awesome. And I forgot to say this, but if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat so that we can cover your specific questions that you may have for Julian today. And then if you want to show your beautiful face because you're not your camera, please, that's totally okay. But if you don't want it, that's fine. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you mainly work with what age groups for as a PE teacher? Kids or teenagers?
No, so I teach K through 4,
Okay.
PE, but then I also coach varsity track. And up until this year, I coached varsity football. This year, I decided not to coach football because I've taken on my personal training stuff.
Right.
And with my personal training, I work all age groups. I worked with an elementary school kid this summer, and I also worked with some retired folks. So I hit the whole gamut. And it keeps my day very interesting.
Yeah, of course. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think there is a lot of questions, or at least sometimes I find that sometimes clients have a lot of questions like exercise, right? Was it the right type of exercise? How often should I exercise? The breaks in between and the nutrition aspect of things. So we did put a few questions together for you. So what are some of the common misconceptions people have about exercise and its benefits?
The biggest one that I get all the time, especially from the ladies, is that if you lift heavy weights, you're going to get really big and muscular. And that's just not true. When you look at the ladies that are actually built that way, they're training 2-3 times a day. They're usually some type of professional athlete. And then if you put that kind of volume into your day, then of course, you're going to see that kind of result. But the average person that's working out 3-4 days a week that's just not going to happen. They're not training to that intensity. So that's the biggest one. Some of the other ones is like long, slow cardio is the best way to burn fat, which also isn't true. So intensity trumps volume every time. So I get to Dr. Kenneth Cooper did a study where he had two individuals. They both ran 2 miles and they expected them both to come back with similar results. One of them turned out was in really good shape and the other one turned out not to be in as great a shape. And then in the end, he went in and he spoke with them. He's like, why did this happen? They did the same work. So then they go back in. The one guy was running the 2 miles twice as fast as the other guy. So he was burning twice as much energy. He was putting in twice as much effort. He burned twice as many calories. So he saw that result. It's one of those things where we have to get past the cardio just because the heart rate is attached to the fat burning, where they say the lower heart rates are going to burn more fat. that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to burn it more efficiently. So the more efficiently we burn it is at the higher intensity work that we do. Oh, and then the other one is like when you look at when they look at the American Council on Exercise, those guys, they have these recommendations for exercise, and they recommend the minutes a week of aerobic activity. Aerobic doesn't mean running. Everyone just hears aerobic and they automatically assume I got to get out and I got to run, or I got to walk long distances. But aerobic just means we have to get your heart rate up. If we get your heart rate up, doesn't matter how we do it. Your heart doesn't know you're walking. It doesn't know you're running. It just knows it's beating fast or it's not beating fast. So that's another thing that people have to think about as well.
Gotcha. When you say aerobic, I think of Jane Fonda.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be Zumba or step aerobics or anything like that, or running tons of miles. It could be any of those, but it doesn't have to be any of them either. But you could go out and set up 3 stations in your backyard and just run from station to station, or jumping jacks can be an aerobic activity if you do it fast enough. So it's just, you got to use your imagination.
So get the heart moving, like you said, get the heart pumping. I recently taken on a little more cardio and strength training. And I gotta tell you, when I do a spinning class, I'm checking my heart rate on my watch, and I'm like, I didn't know it could go that high. And I'm not really conditioned for like high intensity exercise. And I can only imagine if I were to condition myself even more, how high, or the endurance part of it.
And you can do that even in the weight room. So like we have this at Island, we have a circuit area. And a lot of times you'll see people, they'll do a set and they'll sit there and they grab this thing and they start scrolling on it for a couple minutes, and then they do their next set. But what you can do is you do that set, you hop off and you do something in between. Like maybe you do some step box stuff, like you jump on a box, off a box, do some jumping jacks or some squat thrusts. And now you got your heart rate up, hop in, do your next set. And then, or you can do push-ups or something in between, something to get your heart rate elevated, and you haven't had to, and you've kept it in a small space.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you say like women, mostly of our clientele is women. And when you're right, there's this misconception about you get bulky, right? But I think that also comes with I think those bodybuilders, they're in maybe a ton of potentially quote unquote supplementation, right? To get them to get that way, right? Because I guess the female body rule is maybe not designed to be that muscular, would you say?
No, I would agree with you. When you add in any type of supplementation, and that's going to create an effect. So depending on what they're doing, that's going to make them, you look at, and I'm trying to word myself here. You look at the supplements they're taking and the volume of work they're putting in. Like most bodybuilders are working one body part for an hour. So of course you're going to get bigger that way, because this is so much work. But most everyone else, we're going in, we're doing everything, our whole body in an hour, or we're just doing our upper body in an hour. We're not putting in that same amount of work, and we're not taking in the thousands of calories. Some of those athletes are taking in 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 calories a day. When I first started, I met a kid who was training for the Olympics, and he literally was walking out of Wegmans every day with a family pack of chicken, and that was a day's food. So not many of us are eating a family pack of chickens. That's a lot of protein right there. So, and that makes a big difference as well.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. No, that's awesome. So for someone who is new to fitness, what are some of the first steps you would recommend to start incorporating exercise in their daily routine?
The first thing I tell people is you got to set goals, and you got to be specific. A lot of people say, I just want to gain weight. I want to get stronger. But you have to be more specific than that. How much weight do you want to lose? How long do you want to take to lose that weight? What is a relevant amount of time to lose that weight? Just someone say, I want to lose 10 pounds in a month. It's probably a little bit too much. A pound a week, 2 pounds a week, maybe. But so it's got to be, they call them SMART goals. They got to be specific. They got to be measurable. They have to be, I always forget the next one. That's specific, measurable, attainable. That's the other one. So we can't set a goal that isn't realistic and attainable. And then, for instance, 10 pounds in 4 weeks is not realistic. The next one is relevant. So it has to be relevant to you. You can't just set a goal because you think it's something that needs to be done. It's got to be relevant, because that creates that emotion, and the emotion creates the attachment, which makes you want to do it. And then it's got to be time bound. So you give yourself that certain amount of time to to do it. And then that's how you set your goal. And that's what's going to help to keep you on task and help you have direction is what you're looking for. Because if you don't have direction and you're just going in and you're just doing this and that and the other thing, and then it doesn't work, and it's because you weren't focused enough. So the SMART goals will help keep you focused, which will keep you on task and in the right direction.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, that I agree. I've gone to the gym. I'm mature. I'm not
mhm.
really, and I've done, oh, I'm going to do elliptical. And then I go to a weight machine and I'm like, oh, and then that 30 minents is my workout. But how much am I
Right,
really accomplishing? Gosh, I'm moving my body, right? At least
right.
I'm somewhat active, but you're right. If we don't have that um objectivity and like the know-how on how to do it, then I would really just potentially creating some muscle damage, some lactic acid buildup because then I'm sore.
You might be working too hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That happens a lot. People go in and they do way too much, work too hard. And then they're like, I don't want to do that anymore. It hurt. And you don't have to work out to that level to see the success.
You're right. And I like what you said, like every person is individual. What may work for me may not work for somebody else. And what other person is doing is so everybody's unique in that regards to what plan they will need. No, I love it. Now we have another good question that how does regular exercise contribute to mental well-being and stress reduction? That's a really good question.
Yeah. See, and I actually had a great slide for this on my laptop and I can't show it. But so the big thing about exercise is it helps increase endorphins, right? And that endorphin increase helps with the natural brain chemicals, which help with help with pain. And they also change your mood, elevate your mood. It also decreases cortisol, which cortisol is the big stress hormone. So you become less stressed because of that cortisol release. And a lot of people don't realize this, but if you're having trouble sleeping, the best thing for it is to exercise during the day, not right before bed. Well, if you get your exercise in during the day, that's going to make you sleep better because your stress levels have dropped. And then the other effects are as you work out more and you see the weight loss, you start to see that toning or you start to feel better. It improves your self-esteem. You start to feel better about yourself and you don't think as negatively about things. And it makes you want to go more. It makes you want to do more. And it also increases brain function. With that, you get improved blood flow brings more oxygen to your brain, helps you think more clearly. One of the things that is really huge is like anytime say you're trying to type a paper or you're trying to come up with a plan for something and you're just stuck and you always get those moments where you have that block. If you get away from it, go exercise for a little bit, go for a walk, come back, and all of a sudden you're thinking a little more clearly because the exercise reduces some of those endorphins and stuff.
Totally. No, that makes sense. And I do find it that you're right, taking a walk. Sometimes with clients are struggling to their program, something's going on. Often we go take a walk, get the lymph moving, get that, like you say, that brain activity that can occur when we are not necessarily stuck in our head. Like I often hear, oh, I'm an extrovert or I'm an introvert. And all those kind of labels that
Right.
we now have given ourselves or been assigned to us based on how we're feeling. But let's not forget, they're just labels that could be just like they were easily put on, they can be easily taken off, right? Because our momentary state of being. But yeah, and I recommend when I tell people to go take walks, I'm like, don't take your phone with you. Don't take your headphones with you. Just literally go and be in the space, look around, look at the trees, hear the birds, depending on the time of the day.
Right.
Look at people. If someone walks by you, smile at them, like really engage with the environment as you are doing it, because that puts us at that maybe not exactly parasympathetic system because we are in moving and we're exercising, but it does take us out of that mental fogginess that we
Right.
may be experiencing by being in communication with our environment. So that's one of my most basic tools. So I'm so happy you mentioned that. Just a simple walk, right? You don't need to
Yeah.
go and run 10 miles or a 5K or
Yeah,
maybe,
exactly.
maybe
Go out.
someday.
Yeah, just walk into the water fountain and back, or
Yeah.
walk into the bathroom, or if you're just anything, but just getting up, change your space.
Yeah.
Once you change that and then come back, you'll be amazed at what the difference will be. And if it
Yeah.
didn't work, then you might have to go a little bit farther, think about something different, but it does work for sure.
Yeah, no, I love it. So you're talking a little bit about cortisol and how exercise can help reduce cortisol levels. Do you find it that is it gender specific? Like for male, might be a little bit different than as for female. Like obviously cortisol levels, we want them to be lower at night, right? And like you said, don't exercise just before going to bed. But can you speak to that a little bit if that falls within your scope of practice?
I haven't noticed any real differences, but it's also not something that I really focus on either. But I do, the one big one is I tell people like 3 hours before bed, regardless male or female, if you work out inside that window, then you're probably going to have trouble sleeping because your body's all amped up and it needs to come back down. Even a lot of times it was the minorest of walks. But the other side of that is like right after dinner, if you go for a walk, that'll help digestion and everything else. And then that will also help you sleep at night too. And it doesn't have to be a long walk either. We are at our house is at the mile around the block. So just take a quick walk around the block, come back, and that's all you really need. It doesn't have to be really fast or like focused with your arms pumping and all that stuff. You just cruise the block.
No garbage bag to sweat.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to put your headband on or any of that.
Yeah, cool. I love it. Yeah, simple. The simpler, the better, right? Yeah. So we had another great question. Can you share a personal story or example where exercise made a significant difference in someone's life?
I have a family story. So at one point during my career, actually, when I started my personal training, I trained a country singer out in Nashville. We brought him up here and we housed him out in Interlaken. And he had to lose a lot of weight in a short period of time, which isn't necessarily healthy. So we lost close to 40 pounds in a month.
Wow.
But over the course of that, but all he did was sleep, exercise, and eat on occasion. And we knew we weren't doing it properly. And I talked to him when I first signed on to do it. I told him, we're going to talk about ways to do it right. We're going to reach this goal, but then afterwards, we're going to take the steps to make it permanent. Because he wanted to get signed for this record label and they gave him a really small window. So we got him out here and we lost all the weight. And we went down there and he wound up not getting signed. And he went through a bit of a depressive state because he sunk everything he had into this. And so in the end, he winds up refocusing, losing the weight, and he was getting ready last year to actually train to become a bodybuilder. He was going to enter a natural bodybuilding competition, completely changed his diet. Everything. He doesn't look anything like he did when I first met him because we took the time, we made it, educated him along the way. We didn't just do it to do it. And then this is where the second part of the story comes in. So as he's training for this, he had gotten married and he had 2 kids. So during that time, his son develops epilepsy and is having seizures all the time. And then they found out that they changed their diet around for him and then got him doing more exercise, got him off of the screens, got him outside, got him moving, got his heart rate up. And now he's to the point where his seizures are almost never. And he's on very few meds. Like he was on a bunch of meds before. And then the other side of it, his wife during this time got cancer. So she gets cancer and she's really sick, but she was also fairly fit. Her biggest problem was her diet. So when she goes through chemo and everything else, and she is determined to exercise the whole time. So she keeps working out, she keeps doing everything, and she adjusts her diet. And she is cancer-free, rung the bell in less than a year, just because of those little changes. And to see a family that has gone through all of that 12 months, and it's just exciting. It shows you the power of what fitness can do for you. If you make it your lifestyle and look at it as an investment, it's a real investment in your future.
Wow. Yeah, that gave me the chills just listening. And you're right. The body is very intelligent. It knows how to heal and repair itself. And when we give it the tools to be able to do that, then it just goes, right? It's the things that we add to it, the chemicals, everything that is impacting our immune system that have to do with how our body responds. But wow, that's very powerful and interesting, like the wrong way of doing it, right? For whatever reason. And then what happens when you do it right? And then the ripple effect, right? You mentioned something really important, which is lifestyle. I no longer tell people, hey, you need to go on a paleo diet or you need to go on a carnivore diet. No, you need to make this a lifestyle and it takes months, right? I'm one of those who, oh, I need to lose whatever many pounds by the time I go to Mexico. Because when I go to Mexico, I'm probably going to put so many pounds from all the stuff that I'm going to be eating. But if my targets are unrealistic and they're not necessarily according to my lifestyle, my body composition, what might be going on with my system, right then and there, am I setting myself up for a loss? Most likely, right?
Yeah. And I talk to a lot of my clients when we're setting goals to when we first start these programs. The big thing is you got to sit down and take a realistic view at what the potential roadblocks are for you. What are the things that can possibly make you fail? And you got to look at them ahead of time and then start thinking about how could I handle that? Potential roadblock for you is I'm going to be going to Mexico and I'm going to eat. So you can say, I might go in and I'm going to eat all the things, but I'm also going to try and go for more walks while I'm there as opposed to sitting around. I'm going to try and get some workouts in. Maybe I'll try and limit my servings, but nibble here and there. And so, as long as you go into it with a plan, then your chances of success are way higher as opposed to just going in and then say, what happened? I guess not, might as well quit. I gained all the weight back. That's not a realistic way to look at it because life happens. We're all going to go on those vacations. I'll be the first one to go out with my friends, eat a bunch of pizza and have chicken wings and stuff like that. But I'm not going to view that as a failure in the end. That's just one of the things that happens. And now we'll get back on track and we're going to wind up better because of it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, totally. Now let's get into the corrective exercise. So what role does corrective exercise play in preventing injuries and improving overall physical health? So maybe you want to first define what corrective exercise means.
So corrective exercise is done. So if we have for instance, I'll look at a person's run and then I'll see how their gait is off. And I'll use that for instance, if they're pointing their toes out a lot when they run or when they squat, you decide of a tight glute or a weak hip flexor, I said that backwards, tight hip flexor or a weak glute muscle. And then we'll do things to help mitigate that and get it stronger so that we get the body back in balance. And why that's important is the body's called a kinetic chain. And what that means is if you ever put a chain down on the ground, a bunch of links, and you flick one piece, one link, it never just affects that link. It always affects all the links above it and the links below it. So for instance, a person with a tight glute, if your knee turns in, that's going to make your hip roll forward, which is going to put an excessive arch in your back, which is also going to, I just said that backwards. So the hips roll forward, get more arch in your back, your knees roll in, your foot flattens. So now so potentially out of all of that, someone could be like, well, my knee is bothering me and I don't know how to do it. So you go to the doctor and all the doctor will do is they're going to treat the pain, right? Because that's what they're trained to do, but they're not going to treat the problem, right? So then the knee pain is going to continue to come back, so then you go see someone who's, your knee pain is caused by this tight hip. We loosen up your tight hip and all of a sudden your legs straighten out, your hip goes back in the right alignment, your back straightens up, you're like, feel great. And that's and those are really important. And I see that a lot of people the way fitness is going to start to evolve towards in the future is a lot of trainers you're going to come in and you're going to think that we're just going to say, we're going to go on, we're going to bench, we're going to squat, we're going to run, we're going to do this. But in the end, we're going to go run these tests. And what we're going to do is we're going to do some shuffles. We're going to do some stuff with bands. We're going to use maybe a medicine ball or something like that. We're going to fix these movement issues first. Then we'll move into some of that other stuff. And that's what's really important about the corrective exercise part of it. Because if you can't, 90% of the problems that I find corrective exercise wise start at the hips. And usually if we can get the hips, that's where a lot of people will say your core is weak. So the hip is a function of your weak core. And that's not necessarily just your abs, right? Your core is that whole middle section of your body. And that we have to get that aligned and get that strong. Then it's important to move forward from there. A great story about that too is I currently have a client who just had knee replacement. So before knee replacement, because of the injury, she started to walk differently to cover up that injury, right? So she's putting a lot of effort onto her opposite leg. And then, so now and her hips were rotated because she's trying to find comfort. So then they replaced her knee and she's had all this atrophy and she's having trouble getting herself aligned again. So, and in order to prevent potential, because if we let that just go unchanged and we let her just do her thing, over time, she could either wind up having to get her other knee replaced, or she might have to get her other knee and possibly a hip, or she could wind up her hips replaced, all because we didn't take the time to correct these issues that were developed with a knee replacement. Yeah.
Yeah. So technique, right? Even exercising is a technique and method that does require the proper body position and all that stuff. So I love it that you have the eye to just look at someone, run for me, and then you can look and see what they need to be corrected on. So that's really awesome. And I think, right.
Because we'll be in the car and I'll see someone running down the road and I'm like, oh, that person's got this. And she's really, we're going to the grocery store. I'm like, okay, oh.
I know you can. Yeah, no, totally. No, I love it. And the fact that the ripple effect by having incorrect technique could potentially create, and how you are really in the preventive arena as well, because by correcting these things here, then you're potentially preventing some of those other situations or body things that someone might be potentially having.
Yeah. And the other thing to keep in mind is like everyone's different. So there's no cookie cutter way to make things right. There's no one diet. We talk about paleo, carnivore, and all these different things. When you work with clients, there's always these little tweaks because everyone's genetics and things are a little bit different. It's the same thing with me in the fitness arena. I could have 3 people the same height, but what I have to do to get them in the correct positions could be totally different for each one. One athlete might have really short legs and a long torso. The other one has long legs and a short torso. The other one is perfectly evenly matched, but each of those bodies are going to move differently. And there's the way they look in the snapshot is going to be different as well.
Yeah. Pretty cool. No, that's awesome. I love it. So let's see. So how do you recommend balancing different types of exercise? So for example, strength training, cardio, flexibility for optimal health. And you may have already covered that a little bit.
Yeah. Some of it is if you're limited with time, just put it all together. Right. So you can turn your weight workout into a cardio workout just by maybe instead of just doing a regular squat, you do speed squats. You turn it into a jump squat, or you set up a scenario in your yard where if you got 4 corners to your yard, put a different exercise in each corner. Maybe you do squats in one corner, push-ups in another corner. Maybe you got a pull-up bar or somewhere where you could pull yourself somewhere else. Or even we just trimmed a bunch of trees. You could take a piece of wood and lift it over your head. And then when you do that say, I'm going to do this for 30 seconds and I'm going to run to the next. And then I'm going to do that for 30 seconds, run to the next. And then it's really just that kind of simple. Or there's another kind of, I try not on social media. I saw this, a mom had a busy day going on and her kids are constantly like, Mom. So she decided that every time someone said mom, she was going to do a squat. So you could hear in the background, Mom, she's mixing up a bowl. She's squatting and she's folding up the laundry, got to squat and fold. And over the course of the day, she winds up accumulating all this effort and didn't even really have to think about it a whole lot. It's really like fitness can be really simple. There's a lot of noise and a lot of ways to do things, but it has to fit what you can do. It's simple. It can be as simple as you go to Wegmans. We've all done it. We've driven around the parking lot looking for that perfect spot. But you know what spots are always open? The ones in the back. And if you park your car in the back and walk in, you've just gained that many more steps in your day. Or you get to sports medicine down at Island, you got to go to the 5th floor. Instead of taking the elevator, you take the stairs up. That's the leg workout, and that could potentially count as cardio, and it didn't cost you anything. But you were on your way there anyway. And when you think about the time spent, you're like, that's just so far. It's going to take me so much longer. But the time it took you to drive around to find a spot, you could have parked back there and walked in. By the time you're waiting for the elevator, you could have been 3/4 of the way up the stairs. So you just have to change the mindset about things, and it can make it really simple to fit it in. I have worked with some ladies that at school that started off, they would just walk around the building, this group of ladies. And then they got good at that. So then they walked all the way around to the bus garage. And then they were walking up a mile and back they do this during their lunch. And then they had progressed to the point where they couldn't do it during school as much anymore in terms of that part, but they wanted to progress. And then they started jogging parts of it, but they did that after school, but they didn't stop walking during their breaks. They just kept the walk in, and it becomes a habit. And that's a lot of it, you're just creating habits.
I love it. Yeah, I do tend to park at the end, like the far away, because my special awareness is not really high. So I don't like backing in or backing.
Right?
So I don't mind it. So I get a little walk out of it, especially in the way it's parking. Like sometimes I'm like, I feel like I need to go with a bubble or something. I don't, but no, I love it. So thank you so much for sharing that. Like sometimes we have clients who are in the midst of addressing like other mold detox or Lyme disease detox, and sometimes heavy metals or even failures. And sometimes that can take a toll on people physically and obviously mentally. We all experience things differently. And for someone to hear, sometimes you gotta move and you gotta exercise. Sometimes that's an even overwhelming thought to some people. So what are some of the, aside from the walks that we've talked about or anything, if someone wanted to be like, okay, I'm walking now, I have more energy, what other ingredient next could be next for them aside from joining the gym and working with a trainer and stuff like that?
Finding a way to add in some strength.
Okay.
And you can add strength very easily. It could be as simple as I had a client with a shoulder injury. We started off with a 5-ounce soup can, using that as a dumbbell. And then she started using the bigger tomato cans, but she had to do that with 2 hands because her hand wasn't big enough. Or we have a thing in our house where we actually made a 10-pound weight. And all we did is we put those little gravel pebbles inside of a bag and rolled it up and duct taped it. And that's a weight. And so it's be creative to get the strength, like doing, can be simple. Or if you want to do push-ups, you can do the push-ups, or you can do like body weight squats, or you could do it with, I tell a lot of people to hear about the weighted vests. So you could take something like a couple of, like a, look like this, put it in the vest. That's 5 pounds or so right there. And those are ways you can add that strength component without really spending a lot of money. You know,
Right. Yeah.
that's a lot of the key for some people. You don't want to make, the worst thing you can do is make a huge investment and then it collects dust. So start small. And then as you get better, start maybe add in some bands or maybe add in something like that. And, and other things too is like you mentioned personal training. When you think of a personal trainer, it doesn't have to be, oh, 3 days a week for an hour with this person, because that could be expensive. You could meet with a person. I have clients I meet with once a month, and they come to me for a session for an hour in the beginning. I give them a plan for the next 4 weeks, and then they go out and they do the plan on their own. And then they come back and they see me in the month and we discuss the plan. How did it go? What worked? What didn't work? And we adjust the plan. Off they go again. And then I have other clients that started off with at 2 days. Haven't done anybody 3 days a week yet, but start up 2 days a week, then it's dropped down to 1 day a week. And then we're eventually trying to get them to where they can do things on their own. And I guess the thing I'm getting at is you can't be afraid to ask for help. When you're investing in you, that's the most important investment. You know, so what's the alternative? When you don't make this investment, you go and you try and do it on your own, and then you're unsuccessful. And they're just like, forget it, I can't do it. And doctors can do a great job at prolonging your life with medications and surgeries and all these things. But you have to think about what kind of quality do you want? My mother-in-law, before she passed away, everywhere she went, she had to have oxygen. So she always had this hose and this tank that she was taking around everywhere, and there were certain things she couldn't do because of that. So if you, what do you want out of your life? That means you have to make those investments. We wouldn't think twice and about doing research before we bought a car or a house, and those are all things that we're going to replace or can be replaced. But you only get one body, and that's the most important investment. Take the time and make sure your body's okay.
Yeah, definitely. And that ripples into not just yourself, but your family, right? How
Mhm,
you respond to family, how family responds to you.
mhm.
And you could make it a whole family activity as well, I think. So,
Yeah,
no,
the more
that,
people you get involved, you got to have your support group.
yeah, like a community, that's for
Mhm.
sure. And I sometimes have virtual appointments back to back. And I do try to at least get up a little bit, stretch,
Right.
because during COVID, a lot of people were working from home, working Zoom.
Mhm.
And for someone who is at their desk all the time, I love some of the stuff you said. Grab a book, do a little strength training with that,
Yeah.
get a standing desk. Here at the
Mhm.
office, we have a standing desk, and it's been I never thought that I would stand as much as I do when I'm at the front desk doing stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. Having a standing desk has made a difference, not only for how fast we can move at the front desk, but also for not sitting for 8 hours a day.
It makes a tremendous difference in your body. When you sit all day, your hips get stuck in this position and you go to stand and you're really tight. And that's where all you have to make these corrections and fix it afterwards. And it's pretty preventable, you know?
Yeah.
And if you're forced to sit, you just got to make a cognitive effort to be like, you know what? Every hour I'm going to get up and I'm just going to move around, even if it's for 15 seconds, 30 seconds. Because in the worlds of like email and texting, it's very easy to just do it and then sit there to talk to people. But I'd say, you know what? I'm not going to text this one. I'm going to walk down and I'm going to have the conversation. You're still getting work done, but you're also moving and helping yourself at the same time.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Could you tell us about, I love this one, the importance of recovery and how it should be integrated into a fitness regimen?
Recovery is really important because it's one of those things where you can, especially when you merge it with work and everything else. So it's not just, when I think of recovery, I think of it globally. So when you need your mental recovery from work. So that's why you exercise. But then you're exercising, your body needs to recover from the work you've done there too. And a lot of that recovery comes from stretching, yoga, Pilates, eating properly. You're never going to out exercise a poor diet. So everything has to work together if you want to see the success. I've seen a lot of people that will exercise a lot and then they get hurt because they didn't take the time to stretch. They didn't take the time to give themselves the day off. They're out there 7 days a week and you got to take a break. Even if you're switching it up every day, that cumulative effect of all that work is going to catch up with you at some point and your body needs time to recover. And injury, a lot of times, is your body telling you, dude, we got to stop. I need a break.
Yeah, your body will tell you one or the other until you listen, right?
Right.
Until it says enough, it's enough. So, do you
Exactly.
typically find that adding more protein, specifically animal-based protein and electrolytes, can aid those recovery process?
Yes. Yeah, I think I tell people a lot of times get the protein and some type of not sugary electrolyte at the end of the workout. Get that stuff back in right away. And then also I tell them repeat it in the morning. I'm a big advocate for electrolytes and protein when you wake up for breakfast. And if you're not someone who's going to eat right away when you first wake up, that's fine. Because, like, for instance, I don't eat till 10 every day, but I will get up and I'll have my electrolytes first thing just to make sure because you've been asleep for over 8 hours or so. Your body's gotten dehydrated. It's been trying to help you recover overnight. Now you have to help it a little bit first thing in the morning.
Yeah, very important. And I do find that animal protein does tend to do the trick
Yeah.
better, at least for me, when if I'm exercising, if I have experienced some lactic acid buildup from having overdone it or whatever. And so that clean protein specifically from
Yeah.
animals, because we need that, right? To heal and repair. Our muscles need it. And I was watching a reel about a guy who was talking about how your muscles look when before exercise, during exercise, and then after. And I was like, oh, geez. No wonder protein is so important. So it made protein even more important.
Yeah. Those are the nutrients that are going to go directly right back into your muscles. And they need those right away because they just used all of the nutrients you had before to help make the energy get you to move. So we have to refeed them so they're ready for the next go around. And eating real food is a big thing. A lot of times I have a guy I work with, whoever he has always has hard boiled eggs. And that's my after work protein shake right there. And he just eats hard boiled eggs afterwards. Or he'll have like ground beef or something. It's usually nothing really crazy. And it's something he can eat quick. When you have the shakes and those things, they're okay as an alternative to real food, but the real food is always the way to go because um, your body just absorbs it better and it just likes it. It doesn't always know what to do with the things that come in a modified form.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, a lot of the protein powders and already made shakes, they come with all kinds of like fillers and stuff that people can't digest well. Sophie just recently found a protein powder. It's called, oh, I can't remember the name of it. Prime Protein, I think it is the name of it.
Mhm.
And it has about 25 grams of protein, animal base. It's a beef isolate and is three ingredients. Yeah.
There
And I
you
was like,
go.
wow. Yeah, exactly. So I've been experimenting with it and adding collagen to them. I was like, yeah, I need more protein because truth to be told, most of us don't eat enough protein. Whether we exercise or not, we're not eating enough protein. And we see that with labs. When we get labs back, blood work, then we're like, oh, your protein's low, your protein's low. So that could be two things. One, you're not breaking it down, the protein you're eating and digesting it, your body's not utilizing it, or you're just not eating enough of it. And truth to be told, most of us, when I have people log food, they're like, oh, yes, you don't eat enough protein. And I find that when I work with clients who want to lose weight, you need to be eating at least your ideal weight in grams of
Mhm.
protein and ideally coming from animal based because I feel like right now protein is the king. It's protein is everything. It helps with your fasting. It helps with cognitive function, recovery, everything. So I cannot stress protein enough.
It's funny you mentioned the app. So I had never tracked my food really other than writing it down, seeing what I ate until I worked with your husband and he put me on the app. And I was like, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. But the app was nice because you could see how much protein you're getting, how many carbs, and you could see, you're like, it's amazing how some things just aren't what you think they are sometimes. You're like, I'm eating way more carbs than I really thought I was. And I'm not getting anywhere near enough protein. So you have to start making those subtle adjustments, and that feedback is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. No, that's awesome. Gosh, we covered so much information. And I want to now ask our attendees if there's any specific questions anyone has for Julian. If you do, please go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask questions. I haven't seen anything through the chat. I've been trying to pay attention there. But yeah, gosh, I think the world of fitness, it's incredible. I think there's every day there's like new studies and new exercises routines and like we keep discovering how the body works, how it performs better with all the different tools that we have. So I personally love it. Anyway, anyone, any questions, any takers? No one? They're all shy today. Top crowd over here. No, cool. No, that's awesome. Let's see. I had all the questions that I had some of them you already answered for us, Julian, and throughout the talk. Are there any last words of wisdom that you like to leave us with in regards to our topic today?
When it comes to fitness, nutrition, wellness, keep it simple. Like and that goes for like anything. You hear about the rule of three and all that stuff. And it's true. Don't get caught up in all the noise. Keep it simple, keep it focused. And you'd be amazed at how much you'll get done and how much better you'll feel just from keeping your focus narrow and keeping things, don't make it more than it has to be. Um, and then the other big thing is don't be afraid to ask for help or go get it. I went through a stretch where I have a master's degree in health, but I struggled with my nutrition there for a while. So I actually went to you guys and you guys helped me out a ton. And I have other friends I actually know guys that are personal trainers and strength coaches who have personal trainers just because it's easier to have them be, it's well, see, so I guess the way to say it is, so Susie's always on me about writing programs for her. And it's like asking an architect to do work on his house. You do it all day. So you're like, "Oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it." And and it just takes you forever. And you just don't get it done. So be, don't be, just ask for the help and just get it and just do it.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's true. Sometimes I feel like us practitioners or whatever, we make the worst clients. We think we know it all. Or
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes working on family, that can be Ryan as a health coach. Sometimes he's on my case about this and then and I'm like, ah. So
I know
so
you're right.
yes. I know you're right, but I don't want to say it kind of. But anyway, no, I love it so much. I truly appreciate your time. And could you tell us how people could find you? How would someone start working with you?
I work through Island Health and Fitness. You can reach me right through the gym, but also I have my own email, munozstrength@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at munozstrength. And I know, and on Facebook on Munoz Strength. Now I think I do know it's on. And I'm actually going to start posting some more stuff about just like general fitness kind of things, sample exercises and stuff like that on there. So it's another resource for folks.
That's awesome. Awesome. So we'll make sure to add all your contact information and everything once we post this video so people know how to reach out to you. And if anyone who's watching this, watching the replay or has any questions, please feel free to email us. We'll make sure to get those questions answered. You can email Julian. And I could not have been happier about this talk that we just done today. It's so amazing. I've learned so much. The thing that I learned today was correction, the importance of proper technique to avoid any potential injuries. Because even if you're running on your treadmill, even if you're just doing the elliptical, I was like, yes, there's a technique to this. So that the importance of doing so.
Exactly. Don't be in a big rush just to get it done, to get it done. It's better to do it right. The big thing is when you either, if you don't have the time to do it right now, when are you going to make time to fix yourself afterwards? Because the injury's going to come at some point.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Julian, for joining us today. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending some time with us this evening. I hope that you found this information helpful, and we'll see you at the next talk. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Guys, have a great night.